help define who we are. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. Sorry, it took me a little while to get in here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to turn the floor over. This is Kris, I believe. Yes?
You bet. I just have to sort out how to share my screen here.
You also
So it
got
should
an
be in your
echo.
phone.
You have an echo coming on my side. I don't know if that. Are you hearing that echo, Penguin?
I do not hear the echo.
Okay, well, guess you're fine, Kris.
All right. Well, if it becomes an issue later, let me know, and we'll see if we can sort it out. Yeah, right now I'm just seeing my own screen, but I need to. Here we go. All right. Go deep into the vortex there. All right. So basically today, what I'd like to talk about is just a little bit on, social aspects of the crypto space, and yeah, why you should believe in your community. Can you guys see my presentation screen there?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So first, we'll give you just a little bit about myself. I'm a crypto social researcher. I previously spent a couple years out on the east part of Canada doing my master's research on crypto and communities, basically looking at different communities in the crypto space, why people were involved, where they were, what kind of the ideals of those projects were, and maybe why people were involved. If it was that they believed in specific things or that kind of thing. So that's kind of where this whole thing about looking at the social lens and the social side of crypto for me started. So my background is in surveillance studies and sociology, as well as new media studies. I also helped a bit with radical exchange and marketing DAO a bit. And right now I'm working with communications with the Common Stack. I also help with community with Keep Network. I'm also a volunteer with Metagame and Don't Buy Meme. So a little bit, just a whirlwind tour of what I'm planning to talk about a little bit today. Going to go a little bit over the idea of prefigurative space, prefigurative politics, and the power of that. Why community is powerful, how to build some community, how does that all fit into Metagame, and then basically building on your conviction. So what is prefigurative practice? So prefigurative practice, it's basically a concept where you create a new system outside of the traditional system that you currently live in. You create a new system that has the characteristics that you want outside of the system that you're living in, and you use it until use it and or live it until either it becomes the main system or it forces the traditional system to adopt the same characteristics as this prefigurative system that you've created. It's also kind of a form of the free market ideas and competition applied to a cultural space. So being able to go out and create something that we all really respect and really want to be a part of. If we all start building that, and it truly is something that's better and more beneficial for people, and more people keep joining, it becomes impossible to ignore it. So to me, having looked at this space and explored it for a few years now, the blockchain development space, to me, I think still does have that prefigurative quality. So I think we're also on the very edge of having some powerful traditional and institutional power working to co-opt the benefits of this tech, and for the continued pursuit of their own gains. So, for example, IBM or Microsoft, major companies that are coming in and utilizing the tech to some extent, but maybe not necessarily in the same ways that many of us would on an individual basis. So for those of us who have very strong values and convictions for what we're building outside of the traditional powers, many that are values and convictions, those same powers have quashed in the systems that we are forced to use every day. So, for example, privacy. A lot of people moved into Bitcoin, for example, for privacy reasons. They wanted to have some more financial privacy. They wanted to maybe support causes that maybe they didn't want others to know about, different things like that. And those things are reasons for leaving the system because, for example, all of our social media and that kind of thing, there's not a whole lot of privacy on the web today. Particularly again with like surveillance capitalism and a lot of ad targeting and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's not a really a great way forward to have built the system, and then immediately upon gaining wider acceptance, we become co-opted in yet another extension of the current system. So basically, I put here a little bit of a description of how you would describe the blockchain space as a prefigurative space. So you can kind of see that we're creating a new system based around some of our ideals and values, whether that's a specific project in the space or say Bitcoin or Ethereum or another platform more broadly. Generally, there's some ideas and values in the space. A lot of the time that we're building here, we focus a bit on horizontal power distribution. So making sure that the systems it isn't the same hierarchical system that we've been building in the past. And another example of this is DeFi. And I tried to give some antithesis basically to give you guys an illustration of basically what prefigurative practice wouldn't be. So if you're really only into crypto just to cash it out again for fiat, and that's your express purpose, like that's not really prefigurative practice. That's not really getting into it for the reason of making a change or something like that. So then, and part of prefigurative practice is not only theorizing and being involved for those reasons, but also living that practice. So for example, some examples I gave here, using DeFi for good. So supporting other projects, open source or commons funding, things like that, being able to use your gains to help communities, different things like that. Community funding, Gitcoin grants, the concept of regenerative finance. And then again, if we talk about living the system, the antithesis of living a prefigurative practice in this space would be pump and dumps or rug pulls. And you can kind of see like most of the ideas of prefigurative practice, if you connect them with community, you see that that's really a big connector. When you look at pump and dumps and rug pulls, there's really not that community element to what they're doing there. So basically, just to give a little, just a quick little chart. So in practice, prefigurative practice looks a little bit like this. It's obviously not so neat, but this is the general concept, is that there's a cultural build. You kind of all come together, decide the values, decide the what you're really building this for. The second step is then you create that new community around the cultural build, and you exit the old system if or when possible. Some of the theoretical concepts that talk about this, one that I found very interesting and very close is from some Australian researchers, and their idea is called the theory of non-territorial exit. So if you guys are interested in that concept, it's some keywords there for you. But basically, it's a way of not geographically leaving an area, but essentially opting out of a system while still remaining in the same territory. So yeah, basically, that second step is really just to initialize and create that community around your ideals. Recruit people that agree with you. Find people that just are into the same things, all that kind of thing. Step 3 is that you've built the system now. You're starting to build its power. You're starting to build its influence, that kind of thing. And then step 4 is that your system has now become so powerful, so large, so influential, whatever the case is, that the old system no longer can ignore it. So they have to take it into account, either in adopting some of the characteristics or getting in on it somehow. So yeah, the community is really powerful. It's something that folks don't necessarily, especially in the traditional spaces, don't really take into account. That really there should be some strong community management, and there should be some strong community engagement if you want to be successful in these kinds of things. And you can see the power in community in a lot of different things that are happening or have happened around the space. So for example, the community fork of Steemit to Hive. So Justin Sun bought the Steemit fork, or bought the Steemit project, bought the token, and the community really didn't like that. There's a lot of controversy about specific validators getting slashed or not having their token released, or different things like that. And so the community forked itself. They took the whole blockchain, they made a fork of it, and they followed their own and created Hive. The metagame seeds, what we are talking about here in this community. The work that we're doing is generally remunerated in seeds after it's been done. So really all the seeds that are in existence are for work that's already been done, which is an interesting concept where we've all come together in this community with not necessarily any means of or guarantees of specific income, but we're getting a lot of stuff done, and really it's the community, and to some extent, I guess, the seeds that are that are an incentive to that. So really powerful stuff there. There's DAO to DAO research. I know Jeff, I'm not sure if Jeff is going to be talking about that right now, but there's a lot of Common Stack folks that are going to be talking kind of similar concepts of DAO to DAO, the possibilities of DAO to DAO research, and the excitement there. The degen meme to the meme token. So essentially the whole meme token emerged out of the community, out of a meme, if you want to go that far. And basically they got together, they created that cultural build in the group, and they wanted to do democratic art farming. So it's one of the concepts that the team is really interested in is how to make more scarce art more democratically accessible to more people. So that's one of the things that they've tried to do. I'm also involved with the Keep project. We're in the process of doing a DAO merger with the new Cypher team, or sorry, with the new Cypher community. But again, that is a whole merger that the teams have sort of suggested it behind the scenes. But the only way that it's going to pass is if both communities vote and ratify it. And then a couple new projects that are just starting, the Proof of Humanity UBI project from Democracy Earth, and Proof of DAO participation. So you can see all of these types of communities are choosing to reward their users in different ways, but and have certainly different values involved with each project. But they're all very powerful in different ways. So both the critics and the believers in the system are right. That part of what makes something valuable, especially in the crypto space, is a group of people accepting it as valuable. So it's to some extent a spiritual or religious thing, or a belief. And I think that many people come into the space not really seeing what it is, and making that comment as a critique, that it's some sort of a religion. And really, in many ways, it does have religious qualities. This crypto space, yeah, some argue it is a religion to an extent. Not necessarily maybe in the spiritual sense, but certainly in some of the ways that it behaves and has power. So we'll move on from this. So how do you build a community? So there's a few different ways, a few different approaches that folks have gone about building communities. So some of them, I chose to classify a couple different ways here, only really differentiated by the intensivity of either capital in use or labor. More from the the ability to opt in on the community side. So if you want to join the community, is it labor intensive? Is it capital intensive? Is it something else? So you can see that, for example, the Uniswap drop, it was more labor intensive, because the only way you could really, I mean, I suppose you could argue that LP providers also got additional rewards, but the airdrop, really, you qualified for it if you interacted with their system. So they were rewarding for general simple participation. With Gitcoin and, for example, playing for keeps, which was an incentivized testnet that Keep ran, it's more labor intensive. So they're rewarding builders. They're either doing bounty programs. Gitcoin, I suppose, has the grant program to give in advance, but it's still rewarding builders for either proposing or building something. Stakes.social, I'm not sure if you guys have heard this of this project, but it's quite a cool project. It's basically DeFi, but instead of the staker taking all of the rewards are split up between an open source project and the staker. So both come away with some increased interest in the project, which is a pretty cool way to support open source development, in my opinion. Again, we talked about Meme a little bit before, but it was early participation and built entirely with community. So that one's hard to say. It's probably more labor intensive just to get into the community. And then you see in the case with yield farms and liquidity mining, it's much more capital intensive. So you require capital input in order to buy into and provide token liquidity. So you need, for example, if you're trying to get into a Uniswap pool, you have to have the same amount of that token in ETH or whatever the second token is. And I mean, to some extent, people just, that's a barrier for entry. So really, when you're building the community, one of the things you really should think about after you've kind of sorted out why you want to build the new community is, do you want to target a specific user set? So for example, builders, or do you need to have major capital in order to join a community? Like, do you guys want people to be blocked if they don't have enough capital, essentially? So, and then consider whether this is a structure that we want to foster moving forward. So, and so how does this relate to Metagame? So I took, again, the two headings from the Prefigurative Practice slide. And yeah, we're creating a new system and we're living the new system here in Metagame. And it's something that's really exciting. It's something that I was really interested in seeing when I first joined the Metagame, which was back in late 2019, I think. So I'm pretty old in this Discord channel, I guess. But yeah, just saw a lot of the opportunity that I had been researching essentially in my master's thesis, and I saw Peter really building this in Metagame. So that was really my my signal to get involved and really start helping in creating this new system. So we've been working to build a community of people who want to see strong community outcomes. So it's kind of a rising tide raises all boats sort of outlook to how we're building the space. We want it to be a place for conversations to happen about many things in larger communities. We want it to be a meeting place for people that are building things. And I've heard this described in some of our podcasts with other external guests as well, but that Metagame is really a gamified onboarding to the crypto space. And I think that's really true, particularly because, for example, in living the system, it's there's many active participants from many major projects. It is a huge meeting space for many different projects in the space. It's a meeting point for DAO to DAO interaction and engagement. There's so much we can do with the Metagame that is, and I'm really only speaking to the social side of things. There's many technical things that we can get done with the Metagame as well. But for me, although I see those technical possibilities, they excite me more in that they will facilitate a lot of these social things. And that's one of the things that I'm really quite surprised sometimes in this space is that the social aspects of this often become ignored in favor of analysis of capital, or looking at gains in terms of fiat only, or things like that. So I think there's a lot of value to basically considering the social aspect in all of these spaces and projects. And projects that do take that time, I think the community generally rewards them for taking that time and really putting thought into that process. So again, if we think about Metagame in terms of a prefigurative space, we're living the system using seeds. They're reward, as I said before, they're based on work already done, value already added, and they're not minted before that happens. So they're really based on work that's already been contributed, which is an interesting flip on some of the ways tokens are distributed these days. And it's a social community focused on mutual building and successes. So we're all trying to build this together. We're all trying to make this happen and build something that's cooler than what it was yesterday. So a couple of thoughts just to leave you with, just to wrap this up. The only thing worse than not being able to build the future you want is being forced to build the one you want to avoid. So really, I'd implore us all to consider the projects that we are involved in, consider the things that we're building, and really build what you believe in. There's nothing, like I said, nothing worse than being forced to build something you don't want to exist. So build your conviction. This space is uniquely bizarre and open. It's a great space. Be yourself and be a part of building the future you want to live in. And yeah, that's the presentation that I put together today. I'm happy to take any questions. There's a little bit of contact info for me. You guys can get at me on Discord, get at me on Twitter. You can read I've been working to move some of my thesis writing into more accessible Medium posts. So if you're interested in that, there's my Medium publication URL. And yeah, I mean, most of my work is open source and freely available. If there's anything that you guys find, I know there's one article I published that has a paywall. So if you end up running into anything that you for some reason can't access, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll always provide it. So yeah, happy to take any questions if anyone has any questions or comments about the presentation or the content, and yeah, we can go from there.
Awesome, Kris, thank you. Right now, the one comment that we have was that was a very nice presentation from Friederingi.
Right on.
I enjoy everything that you said about MetaFest. I really like your color scheme you got going here. It looks familiar. And I would follow up to say that towards the end there, you were saying what we're trying to build. And I think that one thing I've been concentrating on too is using the language in a way of like we are building.
We are building it. Exactly.
It is happening. And this is just another proof of that,
100%.
So yeah, thank you very much. I feel like that was very digestible, and you said a lot of things that just kind of broke it down for people that might not be, might be looking from afar and seeing it as some sort of spiritual, religious thing, which, like you said, it is. In a way, I mean, we're working hard because we believe in creating this world that we want to live in.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you said, I mean, framing is definitely important. We are building this. We're actively in it. So if there's anyone tuning in that hasn't been building, feel free, jump in, get involved.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a question from Alibite actually asking, how do we get those talented developers and builders out of the capitalistic hell and into crypto?
That's such a good question. I mean, yeah, really for me, it's a lot about really exploring the space and trying to figure out ways that you can translate the excitement into something that they understand. So For example, I've been trying to explain the NFT space, for example, lately to some of my artist friends, and some of them are, they kind of get it, or they're like, oh yeah, you can do digital art kind of thing, and but like it makes so much more sense to them. They usually have some sort of a light bulb moment, especially when you talk to them about, in the NFT space and artists specifically. If you talk about secondary sales being able to be tracked and having some income stream go back to the artist, or if you talk to them about crypto and having some amount of streaming revenue back to the artist as a form of continual patronage from some of their people who consume their art. So like those, really it's about translating the concepts that translate to the concepts that they know, and really describing them as something that they can't really do in the traditional system. So that's, to me, that's one of the biggest ways of recruitment for people outside of the space, is really just explaining to them in their terms, in the way that they understand the world, through their discipline, through their work, whatever it is. Just finding terms to translate that concepts that are exciting in that space for them. So, and then really being open to questions, especially for people that are new to the space. Lots of people just like, they find it very confusing, and it's hard to really just delve into immediately. So just being available too for questions. I think those are kind of the most important things you can do to kind of recruit people. Again, that kind of assumes that you have contact with them. It's not necessarily a broad recruitment tool, but I think that's probably the most effective.
Yeah, I feel like onboarding is a constant puzzle that we're all figuring out, right? Like how to keep people engaged and do it properly, and direct people along the right learning curves, and keep everyone interested and moving forward, and not get discouraged because it's such an overwhelming atmosphere ecosystem.
Yep. And I know Jess is going to give some talk in a little bit here, but I think she's talking about regenerative finance, or I believe we'll talk about regenerative finance, which again is something that I think is really reshaping the way that we consider economics, and is really going to be it's really part of that prefigurative space that we're really out here building something different. So really excited about the things that we're all building here. There's no more exciting space that I'd rather be involved in.
Me neither. Thank you so much. And I think we'll wrap it up. You had a quote on there about being forced to build the future that you don't want.
You bet.
So let's not do that anymore.
Build what you believe in. Yeah, don't build what you don't want to come to fruition. Don't waste your time.
Well, thank you so much,
thanks,
Kris.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too.